I am the blogger behind shewearsdogtags.com, and we're going to do a house tour today. We have done a lot of design using stuff from IKEA, using our VA home loan for our second house. Here is a pretty awesome picture that a friend had made for me. My husband and I both served as chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear defense specialists in the Marine Corps, and this artwork is just a little homage to our job. So we're gonna move out here. So right now it's sort of set up a little bit as a formal living room. We have actually done a lot of downsizing on our possessions. I have tried to implement some of the teachings of Marie Kondo. I just found that her style of organization really resonated with me. The town of Gilbert has started to mandate wearing face masks. So we have these. These are kind of new. And a while back we got some cute little Old Smoky moonshine hand sanitizer when local stores, they were all out. So the next thing, I'll go ahead and turn around and we'll take a look. This is our dining room and kitchen space. So we're gonna just kind of pivot around here a little bit. All right, so you can kind of get a good view of everything here. Arizona is one of the top states for new COVID-19 cases. And so we're kind of just doing our part here, staying at home, staying away from people. We wear our masks when we go out just to be as safe as possible. I enjoy cooking and baking. It's been a serious hobby since 2007 when I separated from the Marine Corps. Those skills have really suited me now that we're spending more time at home.
Probably ask.
Okay, what's your question?
Is this table concrete?
This table is concrete.
Okay.
Okay. One of the next things we're going to look at today, because grocery shopping has changed so much, at least for us since March, take a little sneak peek into the pantry and into the fridge to kind of show off what grocery shopping looks like today for our family. Frozen goods, and now we're actually stocking up on some dry goods and canned items just to make sure, as there are delays in what's at the grocery store or there's limited selection, we can eat a little bit more of the foods that we like.
What is probably your favorite type of chip? There are a lot of chips around you.
Oh, what kind of chips? Well, it's kind of fun, but maybe about a year back or so, we found out Taco Bell has made some tortilla chips that are like their sauce packets. So these are the mild tortilla chips, and they're fantastic. Probably about like March or April, we spent several weeks where it was hard to find sugar, flour, pasta. It was incredibly difficult to find, and so we actually had to shop at several grocery stores, and now grocery stores are getting easier to shop. Next, we're gonna take a sneak peek into the fridge. My husband and I do drink, so we have a couple things in here. We have vermouth, some red wine.
Is that tea I see over there?
This is a roasted barley tea. Normally, this fridge has lots of leftovers. So we'll close this out, and the best representative of shopping we've done in the last few weeks is our freezer. We've started to stock up on some dairy-free treats. We have gelato too.
Gelato.
Frozen spinach. We keep extra butter in the freezer. Like I said, a lot of frozen vegetables have been our mainstays. A little trip outside. Landscaping team come in. They did 2 extended areas of pavers. They put up a privacy panel to hide our trash can receptacles, and bought a stock tank to make a small pool for the backyard. So come check that out.
Just gravel.
Yep, and so we'll just stay right here.
And more pavers on both sides.
Yep. Come on in. Okay. My husband and I both serving in the Marine Corps. There are a couple of things that we keep in the house that demonstrate our military service. keep a whole bunch of like souvenirs. We have a couple over. I had the opportunity to serve in Iraq, and these were two shells that I was able to purchase. And, okay. So we'll go upstairs, we'll check out the loft, we'll go take a sneak peek at the laundry room, and we'll close with the master bedroom. Gregor is huge. I mean, he's probably like 120 or so pounds. So we couldn't find a good off-the-shelf pet door. Okay. Originally, our goal was not to get a 2-story house, but the 1-story house we were looking at, the seller didn't like our offer because we had a contingency to sell our previous home. Our family all working remotely right now. We've had to make some adjustments. When our daughter starts school in the fall, this will be her desk space. Is our regular entertainment space. Kind of simple. So we'll head down the hall. Shelf, sorry, has a lot of just fun little knick-knack things. We do love Legos. So we got this little Lego house and then a little set here for the TV show Big Bang Theory. So we got everyone there, including Raj's dog, Cinnamon. All right, so we'll pan back. Heading to the master bedroom. The desk right here came in from Work From Home Desk. It's an American company. No tools, no screws, nothing. You just have these little like keys and cuts in the wood that just allow you to piece it all together.
That's cool. Is that a picture of your dog?
This is a picture of our dog, Gregor. He is a Cane Corso. Because we're fans of the show Game of Thrones, made for my husband for Christmas. We've got some swords here. And then off to the right, we have the NCO sword for the Marine Corps. The very first gifts that I got from my husband is this Scottish claymore. A little bit of a funny story, but I ordered that for him when I was heading out to my second deployment to Iraq, and it was supposed to be a birthday surprise, but the company had to reach out to him because they had to change the order a little bit. So, surprise or zero. We won't go into the master closet, which is that door back there. It's a little disorganized. This house has this really beautiful full-size shower. So that'll end the tour up here. So, see you next time.